permanent tissues. Now here we go with complex permanent tissues. Simple permanent tissues are parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma, where they are located at particular parts so that it gives flexibility, it gives storage of food, and sclerenchyma, it gives a hard structure like seeds and nuts, which they have hard structure for in the presence of sclerenchyma. Next comes complex permanent tissues are made up of more than one type of cells. These are two types. They are also called as vascular bundles like xylem and phloem. Xylem consists of tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma, and xylem fibers. The tracheids and vessels help to transport water and minerals from roots to the shoot from all parts of the body, all parts of plant. Next comes phloem. Phloem consists of sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, and phloem fibers. Sieve tubes and companion cells transport food. The main function of phloem is transportation of food, whereas this transportation of food is done by sieve tubes and companion cells. From leaves to where does the food is synthesized? In the leaves with the process of photosynthesis, and from the leaves this food is transported to all parts of the plant. See the different types of cells of xylem and phloem. Phloem consists of sieve tubes, companion cells. These are sieve tubes, these are companion cells, and these transport food from the leaves to all parts of the plant. Next comes animal tissues. Animal tissues are of four types. Depending on their structures and functions, they are divided into four types. They are epithelial tissue, muscular tissue, connective tissue, and nervous tissue. Epithelial tissue is nothing but epi. The word epi always refers to the outer layer. Epithelial tissue is nothing but the covering or the protective tissues in the animal bodies or epithelial tissues, and again they are divided into different types depending on their structures. They are squamous epithelium, columnar, cuboidal, and glandular tissues. Next is muscular tissues. This tissue is responsible for movement in our body. They are of three types: striated, unstriated, and cardiac, depending on their location and depending on their structures. Connective tissue is nothing but these are of different types. They are such as blood, bone, ligaments, tendons, cartilage, areolar, and adipose tissues. Next comes nervous tissue. Nervous tissues consist of nerve cells are called as neurons. They are called as neurons. Now let us see the different types of epithelial tissues. First is squamous epithelial tissues consists of a layer of thin flat cells. It is present in the linings of blood vessels, lungs and mouth, esophagus, etc. This squamous epithelium is thin flat cells, blood vessels, mouth, the mouth which has a very soft tissue, that is nothing but squamous epithelial tissue, and our esophagus. Esophagus is nothing but the lining of food tract, that is called as esophagus, and the linings of blood vessels are also made up of this squamous epithelial tissue. And coming to columnar epithelial tissue consists of tall pillar-like cells present in the walls of intestine and respiratory tract. This columnar epithelium consists of cilia. Cilia are nothing but the hair-like structures. That is why it is also called as ciliated columnar epithelial tissue. This cilia absorbs or else the attacks the harmful microbes which enters into our body. That is why it is present through respiratory tract. Respiratory tract, when we inhale air, when it contains some different microbes, harmful microbes which affects our body, it is being trapped by that cilia, and which does not let those microbes entering into our body. And even in the same way, it is present in the walls of the intestine also, that harmful microbes or harmful chemicals, harmful acids which are present outside the intestine, extracellular intestine, will not let this cilia entering into the intestine. This is regarding the columnar epithelial tissue, and this will have a brief gist of this. Animal tissues: epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous. Connective tissues are areolar, adipose, skeletal, and fluid tissues, whereas epithelial tissues are of four types or five types of: squamous, cuboidal, columnar, ciliated, and glandular. The third type of tissue here comes Cuboidal epithelial tissue. This consists of cone-shaped cells. See here, cuboidal epithelium consists of cone-shaped cells, whereas squamous epithelium consists of the cells which consists of basement membrane like this, a layer of cells having a basement membrane, cuboidal epithelium. It forms the lining of kidneys, tubules, and the ducts of salivary glands. Our salivary glands are made up of cuboidal epithelial tissue. Next is glandular epithelium. Glandular epithelium tissue folds inwards and forms a multicellular gland which secretes substances. This folds inwards and they form multicellular glands. Gland is nothing but which secretes substances. For example, our endocrine glands. What is gland? Which secretes the hormones. Endocrine glands are nothing but the which secrete hormones. And in the same way, this glandular epithelial tissue also secretes some substances. So that is why it is called as glandular epithelial tissue. They fold inwards and form a multicellular glands like this. And this is ciliated epithelium, ciliated columnar epithelium, which is present in the tracts of respiratory tract as well as the intestine. Next, we shall see muscular tissues. Epithelial tissues are done so far. Now, let us see muscular tissues. What are muscular tissues? What are the three different types of muscular tissues? There are three different types of muscular tissues present on their location, depending on the location. They are skeletal muscular tissue, smooth muscular tissue, and cardiac muscular tissue. Skeletal, the name itself, we can say that they are present in the bones. They are voluntary. And next comes smooth. Smooth muscular tissues are present in almost all the organs, such as inside internal organs, such as the stomach, intestine, and blood capillaries. Next is cardiac muscles. Cardiac, the word cardiac always refers to heart. These muscles are present particularly in only the heart muscles. The shapes and structures of these muscular tissues are given here. Skeletal muscular tissue are long and cylindrical. They contain stripes, so that is why they are called as striated, and they are voluntary muscles. Next is cardiac muscles. They are striated, of course, and they are involuntary. The heartbeat is not in our hands. That is why this is called as involuntary, and they are shorter and branched. They contain intercalated discs, which are shown in the form of lines here, curved lines here. They are called as intercalated discs. And smooth muscles consist of uninucleated. They are all non-striated, unlike skeletal and cardiac muscles. They are spindle shaped and they are also involuntary. Those actions are not in our hands. Let us see the location or function of the skeletal tissue. Skeletal tissue location is in the skeleton, as said. Cardiac is in the heart, and visceral or smooth muscles in the form of gustatory tract, that is intestinal tract, uterus, eyes, and blood vessels, as said. And the functions of these skeletal muscular tissues is movement, and cardiac muscles is pumping blood. The heart function, as said, and smooth muscles like peristalsis. The gustatory movement is called as peristalsis for the free movement of our gut. Gut is nothing but the intestinal tract. Next is blood pressure and pupil size. The pupil which is present inside our eye is best example for smooth muscle. They are involuntary actions. Those actions are not in our hand. These are the different types of muscular tissues. Next comes the connective tissues. The connective tissues, first one is there are different types of connective tissues, as I said, blood, bones, adipose tissue, areolar tissue, and the dense connective tissues are different types of connective tissues. First, we shall see blood is a type of connective tissue. It has a liquid matrix. It is called as a plasma liquid, a plasma in which RBCs, WBCs, and all other platelets are suspended like this. See, this is all plasma. Let us consider this as a plasma, and all these like red blood cells and white blood cells and platelets are inserted like this. This is called as a blood. Blood is a connective tissue. Next comes bone. Bone is on also an another example of connective tissue. It forms the framework as well as the skeleton for our body. Next comes, this is the structure of the bone. Bone cells are called as osteocytes. osteocytes. The word osteo always refers to bone. Next is areolar connective tissue is found between the skin and muscles. That is how they connect skin and muscles. That is areolar connective tissue. Like this, these are fibroblasts and these are collagen fibers. This connects the skin and muscles. Next is cartilage. Another type of connective tissue. Cartilage has widely spaced cells like this. See, there are much gap between these cells. This cartilage smoothens bone surfaces at joint. At joint, this cartilage this smoothens. What will happen? This bone this bone will friction. This bone will get friction and it breaks easily. That is why for instead of breaking, this cartilage helps to prevent the breakage. This is called as a cartilage, and this is also another type of a connective tissue. And here it goes. These are different types of animal tissues.